I died on the 30th floor of the Sterling Tower, choking on my own blood as the glass shattered around me. My husband's hands, those same hands that had once slipped a ring on my finger, pushed me through the window. His face twisted not in rage, but in cold calculation. And as the wind howled up from the streets of New York below, I realized the merger I'd slaved over for years wasn't salvation. It was the noose he'd tied around my neck. But death isn't the end when you've got unfinished business. I woke up gasping in my old apartment on the Upper East Side. The alarm clock blinking 6 a.m. on the morning of the signing, 3 years before the fall. My body was 28 again, unscarred. My reflection in the mirror showing wide eyes that hadn't yet learned to trust no one. Not even family. The first thing I did when I really came to, heart slamming against my ribs like it was trying to escape, was vomit into the porcelain sink of my pre-betrayal bathroom. It wasn't the elegant marble vanity in the penthouse I'd shared with Derek. This was chipped white ceramic. The kind you find in a walk-up that costs an arm and a leg just for the view of a brick wall. My hands gripped the edges, knuckles white, as the sour taste of bile mixed with the phantom metallic tang of blood from that final plunge. "Charlotte, you okay in there?" The voice was muffled through the door, my assistant, Lena, back when she was still fresh out of NYU. All wide-eyed loyalty and cheap coffee runs. In my first life, she'd been the one to find my body after the accident, piecing together the puzzle too late. I rinsed my mouth, staring at the woman in the mirror. Same chestnut hair, now loose and unstyled instead of the sleek bob I'd adopted to look executive. Same green eyes. But these hadn't dulled with the weight of secrets yet. "Yeah.
Just.
Bad dream," I called back, my voice steadier than I felt.
Bad dream.
That's one way to put it. I stepped out into the living room, the space cramped but mine, posters of indie bands from my wilder days peeling at the edges. A half-dead ficus in the corner that I'd eventually kill with neglect. Lena was perched on the edge of my thrift store couch, scrolling her phone, her dark curls tied back in a ponytail that screamed, in turn, energy. She looked up, concern etching lines on her forehead that wouldn't deepen for years. "You sure? You look like you saw a ghost." She handed me a to-go cup from the bodega downstairs, black coffee. 2 sugars. Just how I liked it back then. "Ghost? Try the whole damn cemetery."
Al fine.
"What's the agenda? Merger signing at noon. Right?" The words tasted like ash. That merger, Sterling Tech acquiring my startup. Innovate Edge. It was supposed to be my ticket to the big leagues, a 9-figure deal that would make me untouchable. Instead, it made me expendable. Derek, my fiancé at the time, had wormed his way in as my consultant, charming the board while siphoning off funds into offshore accounts. And Elena Voss, my supposed mentor at Sterling, had greenlit it all. Her smile as sharp as the stiletto she used to accidentally nick my arm during our last lunch. Lena rattled off the schedule. Breakfast meeting with the lawyers. A quick call to my dad, Dad, then the drive to Midtown. I nodded along, but my mind was racing 100 miles an hour down memory lane, swerving through the wreckage.
Dad. Victor Hale.
The man who'd raised me single-handedly after Mom bailed when I was 5, drilling into me that trust was a luxury and family was the only currency that mattered. He'd been so proud when I pitched Innovate Edge, a platform revolutionizing supply chain AI for small businesses, his baby girl, the tech whiz, finally outshining his own failed ventures. But pride turns to poison when secrets fester. In my first life, I discovered too late that Dad had his own skeletons, a gambling debt to the mob from his Wall Street days, one he'd buried under layers of denial. Derek had dug it up, used it as leverage to force Dad into signing over his shares in my company for pennies. The old man had done it, thinking he was protecting me, but it gutted Innovate Edge from the inside. By the time I confronted Derek on that 30th floor, the merger was a sham, Sterling swallowing us whole, Elena pocketing the real profits while Derek framed me as the embezzler. I couldn't let it happen again. Not this time. Change of plans, I said, snatching my coat from the hook. Skip the lawyers. We're going straight to Sterling. Lena blinked. But the NDAs. Screw the NDAs. The words hung in the air, bold and reckless. In my old life, I'd been the good girl, dotting every I, crossing every T. This Charlotte? She was done playing nice. The cab ride downtown was a blur of honking taxis and steaming manholes, the city pulsing with that gritty New York rhythm that never sleeps. Lena fidgeted beside me, firing off questions I barely registered. My phone buzzed, Dad. I let it go to voicemail, the preview showing his usual gruff affection. Hey, kiddo. Big day.
Knocking Dej.
If only he knew. Sterling Tower loomed like a monolith of glass and steel, its lobby a cathedral of polished chrome and echoing footsteps. Elena was waiting by the elevators, all blonde perfection in a sheath dress that cost more than my rent. Charlotte, darling, you're early. Eager beaver. Her laugh tinkled like breaking ice. In the first timeline,
Hidemilat.
gushed about the future.
Now.
I met her eyes, searching for the flicker of malice I'd missed before. It was there, buried under Botox and false warmth. Something like that. Let's talk terms before the ink dries. Her perfectly arched brow lifted. Terms? The deal's set. Not anymore. I stepped closer, voice low. I want veto power on all board appointments. And a full audit of your acquisition history. Lena gasped softly behind me. Elena's smile froze, then cracked just a hair. Bold move for a first-timer. Derek mentioned you were ambitious.
Derek.
Hearing his name was like a gut punch, but I swallowed it down. He wasn't here yet, wouldn't slither in until the champagne toasts. Ambitious? That's one word for it. Let's call it informed. The elevator dinged, swallowing us into its silver maw. As we ascended, Elena's perfume, something floral and cloying, filled the space, triggering a flash of memory, her leaning over my hospital bed after the fall, whispering condolences while picking through my effects for the USB drive with the merger codes. She'd played the grieving colleagues so well, even at my funeral. By the time we hit the conference room, my blood was boiling. The table was set with crystal water glasses and leather-bound folders, the city sprawl visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. Lawyers milled about, adjusting ties and murmuring into phones. I claimed the head seat, uninvited, and spread out my own printouts, digs I'd mentally prepared in the cab, cross-referenced against the betrayals I now knew by heart. Elena sat across from me, fingers steepled. This is irregular. Life's irregular. I slid a folder toward her. Page 47. Your last acquisition, BioLink. You buried environmental violations under shell companies. I want assurances that won't happen here. Her eyes narrowed, the mask slipping. Where did you? Does it matter? It matters to my investors.
To me. Lie.
In this timeline, I hadn't uncovered it yet. But I remembered the whistleblower article from 2 years post-merger. The one that tanked Sterling stock after my death. The door swung open. And there he was, Derek Langford. All 6'2" of Ivy League charm. His dark hair tousled just so. Suit tailored to perfection. He carried a bouquet of lilies, my favorite. Or so he claimed, grinning like he'd invented sunshine. Charlie, there you are. Ready to make history, Charlie. Only he called me that. A nickname from our first date at that dive bar in Brooklyn, where he'd bought me a beer and listened to my rants about coding till last call. I'd fallen hard, built him up as my rock.
Until he shattered me.
In the first life, I'd melted at that grin. Let him kiss my cheek while Elena watched with amusement.
Now.
I stood, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. History.
Yeah.
But let's rewrite a chapter first, he faltered.
Just a beat.
Flowers dipping. Everything okay? Babe.
Babe.
The word curdled in my gut. Peachy. Just tying up loose ends, the meeting dragged into a standoff, my demands chipping away at the facade. Elena called a recess, herding the lawyers into a side room for clarifications. Derek pulled me aside, his hand on my arm, too tight, possessive. What's gotten into you? This isn't like the Charlotte I know. I wrenched free, heart pounding. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think. His eyes searched mine, that boyish confusion masking the predator beneath. Hey.
Talk to me.
We're in this together. Together. The lie that had cost me everything. I wanted to scream it all, the offshore accounts, the forged signatures, the way he'd laughed with Elena over drinks after pushing me out the window, toasting to one less loose end. But I couldn't. Not yet. Revenge wasn't a sprint, it was a marathon of calculated cuts. Later, I said, stepping back. We've got a deal to close. By noon, concessions were made. My veto power, the audit clause. Elena signed with a flourish, her gaze promising payback. Derek clapped me on the back, whispering, "Proud of you, Tiger." I endured it, plotting the next move. That night, back in my apartment, I poured a glass of cheap Merlot and scrolled through old emails on my laptop. The ones from Dad. Buried in the archives, pleas for loans he'd disguised as investments. His debt, 50 grand to some low-level enforcer tied to the Genovese family, had started as a poker game gone wrong in '05, snowballing into threats that kept him up nights. I'd found the ledger after his heart attack 6 months post my death. The one I'd suspected was no accident. I picked up the phone, dialing his number. It rang twice before his gravelly voice answered. "Charlie, how'd it go?" "Closed the deal."
Dad.
"Bigger than we dreamed." A pause. Then, "But I need to ask you something." "About Mom." Silence stretched like a taut wire.
Mom.
The ghost who'd left us for a life in California. Or so the story went. But in the ashes of my first life, I'd uncovered fragments, letters from a PI, hints of an affair, a payoff to keep her quiet. And Derek?
He'd known.
Used it to twist the knife deeper, telling me on that fatal night, "Your old man's as broken as you." What about her? Dad's tone was wary, the kind that came from years of dodging shadows. Did she leave because of money problems? Debts? Another beat. Kiddo, that's ancient history. Why dredge it up now? Because history repeats if you let it. Just tying up loose ends. Like you taught me. He chuckled. but it was forced. Get some rest. Big girls all grown up. I hung up, staring at the city lights flickering outside. The merger was mine for now. But the real war was just beginning. Elena's secrets, Derek's charm, Dad's lies, they were all threads in a web I'd untangle. One betrayal at a time. Sleep came fitful, haunted by echoes of shattering glass. But when morning broke, I was ready. Coffee in hand, I fired off an email to a contact from my old life, a forensic accountant who'd gone freelance after the BioLink scandal. Interested in a side gig? Innovate Edge needs eyes on Sterling. The reply pinged back within minutes. Name the price.
Game on.
Over the next weeks, the high of the merger faded into the grind of integration. Sterling's offices became my second home, a labyrinth of cubicles and corner suites where ambition hung thick as fog. I pushed for changes, ethical audits, transparent hiring, moves that ruffled feathers and earned me whispers of troublemaker in the break room. Derek proposed that Friday, down on one knee in Central Park, the carousel horses whirling behind him like a fairy tale. Lilies again, and a ring that sparkled under the autumn sun. In the first timeline, I'd said yes, without hesitation, blinded by the merger's glow.
Now.
I let him slip it on, my smile a weapon honed sharp. Yes, I whispered, pulling him close. But on one condition, total honesty. No more secrets. His laugh was easy, but his eyes darted just a fraction. Always. Charlie. Liar. That night, as we celebrated at his favorite steakhouse in the village, dry-aged ribeye and overpriced Bordeaux, I watched him across the table, dissecting every gesture. The way his fork paused midair when Elena's name came up, the subtle shift when I mentioned Dad's old debts. He was good, but I was better now. Reborn. Lena, promoted to junior exec on my recommendation, pulled me aside in the ladies' room. You sure about this? Derek's. Intense. Intense. That's code for controlling. The kind that escalates from love notes to locked doors. I'm sure. Trust me. She nodded, but doubt lingered. Smart girl. The first crack appeared a month in, during a late-night strategy session. Elena cornered me in the copy room, her voice a hiss. You're playing a dangerous game, Charlotte. Rocking the boat like this? It sinks everyone. I fed a document into the machine, the word drowning her out momentarily. Then maybe it's time for a new boat. She stepped closer, breath hot on my neck. Derek warned me you were unpredictable. Said you had daddy issues. The machine jammed, spitting paper like confetti. I turned, inches from her face. Tell Derek I said thanks for the psych eval. And remind him, loyalty's a two-way street. Her laugh was brittle. Cute. But streets have traffic.
Dear.
And you're about to get hit. I didn't flinch. In my old life, I had backed down, apologized, let them isolate me. This time, I filed a quiet HR complaint the next day. Hostile work environment. Of course. Derek found out by week's end, his charm fraying at dinner. What's this about Elena? You two fighting over me? He tried for playful, but jealousy edged his tone. Just office politics. I sip my wine. Casual. You know how it is. He reached for my hand, thumb tracing the ring. We're better than that. Team Halingford. Right?
Hale.
My name.
Not yet changed.
A reminder that I was still Charlotte Hale, untethered. But the web tightened. Dad called mid-November, voice shaky over the line. Charlie,
I.
I need help. Old friends. The kind that don't forget.
The debt.
It was rearing its head early this time. Prodded by whom? I already suspected. How much? $50K. I can pay it back. Stop. I cut him off. Mind worrying. In the first life, I'd wired the money myself, draining Innovated's reserves. It was the first domino. Don't touch a dime. I'll handle it. You?
Kiddo.
This is family.
Dad.
Remember? I hung up before he could argue, then dialed my accountant contact. Double the gig. And trace any inquiries on Victor Hale. The report landed in my inbox 2 days later. Hits from a shell corp linked to Derek's alma mater. Coincidence? Hell no. Confrontation brewed. But I played it cool, letting the tension simmer. Holiday party season hit like a freight train, glittering galas at the plaza, where Wall Street sharks circled under chandeliers. Elena held court in a red gown that screamed power. Derek at her elbow, his arm too familiar around her waist when he thought I wasn't looking. I was. Always. On the night of the Innovate Edge Holiday Bash, my event, my triumph, I wore black velvet, a dress that hugged like armor. Dad showed, rumpled suit and proud grin, clapping me on the back harder than necessary. Look at you, owning the room. We clinked glasses, but his eyes darted to the door. Heard you talk to your mom.
Mom.
The bomb he dropped in a drunken voicemail last week, confessing she'd reached out after seeing my face in Forbes. Charlotte Hale, the merger maven.
Yeah.
I kept it light. Coffee in LA next month. Catch up. He deflated. Good.
She
never stopped loving you. Lies layered on lies. The PI letters I'd rediscovered in his attic after his death painted a different picture. Mom fleeing not just him, but a web of his infidelities and debts. And Derek? He'd met her once. In secret, using her as another pawn to pressure Dad. Across the room, Derek approached, Elena trailing like a shadow. Victor, great to see you. He pumped Dad's hand, all teeth. Charlie's told me so much. All good. I hope. Dad's laugh was strained. The best. Derek's eyes met mine. A silent dare. Elena inserted herself, air-kissing Dad's cheeks. Family man. Adorable. The band struck up a slow jazz number, and Derek pulled me onto the floor. His hands on my waist felt like brands. You're distant lately. What's wrong? Nothing a little truth won't fix. I leaned in, breath against his ear. Like, why you're sniffing around my dad's finances. He stiffened, steps faltering.
What?
That's crazy. Is it? I pulled back, smiling for the crowd. Don't lie to me.
Derek.
Not tonight. The song ended, applause scattering us. He vanished into the crowd, Elena at his heels. Dad cornered me by the bar. What was that about? Protecting us. I squeezed his arm. Both of us. But protection cuts both ways. That night, as snow dusted the streets, my phone lit up with an unknown number. A text, back off, or Daddy pays. Elena. The first shot fired. I deleted it, adrenaline surging. The game was afoot, and I was no longer the mark. I was the hunter. Winter clamped down on Manhattan like a vice, the kind that turns commutes into battles and excuses into art forms. I threw myself into the work, embedding my team deeper into Sterling's ops, planting seeds of doubt with every memo and meeting. Lena became my right hand, her sharp mind catching discrepancies I'd overlooked even in my foreknowledge, the padded invoices, the ghost employees on the payroll. "You're like a bloodhound," she said one frigid morning, handing me a steaming latte as we huddled in my new office. Bigger than the old one, with a view of the Hudson that mocked the river's murky flow. Years of practice. I scanned a report she'd compiled. Derek's expense account, flushed with consulting fees to a Cayman firm. Good catch. Dig deeper. She hesitated. "Charlie, this merger, it's changing you. In a good way.
But
Intense. Intense." That word again. I set the file down, meeting her gaze. "Ever feel like you've been given a second chance to fix what got broken?" She shrugged, young enough to believe in clean slates. "All the time. But revenge? That's a slippery slope. Not revenge. I wanted to say justice. But the line blurred, especially when Elena escalated. It started small, anonymous leaks to the trade blogs, painting me as a control freak derailing the merger. Sources say Hale's paranoia risks billions. Then came the whispers in board meetings. Her allies, old boys club relics, nodding along as she dismantled my audit push. Derek played peacemaker. Or tried to. Dinners turned tense, his touches lingering too long, probing for weakness. "Babe, Elena's just stressed. We're all on the same team." "Teams have captains," I replied, pushing my plate away. The steak tasted like cardboard now. Every bite a reminder of that last meal before the fall, filet mignon. Derek toasting our future, while Elena texted under the table.
he sighed,
Running a hand through his hair. "You're not yourself. Is it the wedding? We can postpone."
"No."
The word snapped out, sharper than intended. Postpone? In the first life. We'd rushed it. A lavish affair at the Hamptons that sealed my isolation. Family only, mine estranged, his a parade of social climbers. Mom hadn't come. Dad had footed half the bill on credit. "We're doing it. But on my terms." His smile returned.
Strained.
Always.
Lies.
The real unraveling hit in January, when Dad's debt collectors made their move. Two goons in ill-fitting suits cornered him outside his Queen's brownstone crack. A warning shot into his mailbox, brass gleaming in the snow. He called me sobbing, the man who'd taught me to stand tall reduced to whimpers. "Charlie," they said. "They know about the merger. Said you'd pay if I didn't." My blood ran cold.
Derek.
It had to be. He'd accelerated the timeline, using Elena's connections to sick the wolves early. "I'm coming over." I grabbed my keys. Lena protesting from the doorway. "Handle the 2 p.m. with boss." Stall. The drive to Queens was a nightmare of slush and rage. Wipers slapping like accusations. Dad's place was a time capsule, faded wallpaper from the 80s. Photos of us at Coney Island yellowing on the mantel. He answered the door pale as milk, a bruise blooming on his jaw. "They took the TV," he muttered, ushering me in. Bastards. I pulled him into a hug, the scent of Old Spice and regret enveloping me. "Who are they?" "Dad?" "Names. Frankie and Sal." Low level for Vinnie Russo. It's old.
Charlie.
From before you were born. Almost. Before Mom. The pieces clicked his Wall Street glory days. High-stakes games to impress her. The losses that drove her away. Why didn't you tell me sooner? He sank onto the sagging couch, head in hands.
Shame.
A Hale doesn't beg. We do what we have to. I paced, mind mapping the retaliation. Pay them off.
No.
That fed the beast. Expose them? Riskier. But it cut the strings Derek pulled. That night, after tucking Dad in with promises and a loaded Glock from his nightstand, just in case, I drove back to the city. Detours through Hell's Kitchen. I needed dirt. Leverage. My accountant had more. Derek's ties to Russo via a mutual poker buddy. Consulting that smelled like money laundering. But proof wasn't enough. I needed witnesses. Enter Marcus Reed, a ghost from the first timeline. In my old life, he'd been a junior analyst at Sterling, the one who'd emailed me tips post-merger.
Too scared to go public.
Fired after anonymous complaints, he'd vanished into obscurity.
Now?
I tracked him to a dive bar in the East Village, nursing a whiskey amid the hum of forgotten dreams. Charlotte Hale. His eyes widened as I slid onto the stool beside him. Holy shit. The merger queen herself. Ex-queen. I signaled the bartender. 2 shots of tequila. Heard you got the boot. Unfair. From what I hear. He downed his. Wary. Water under the bridge. Not if it's poisoned. I leaned in. Voice low. I know about the shells. BioLink. And now Innovate Edge. Help me drain the swamp, and I'll make it worth your while. He laughed. Bitter. And get whacked? Pass. One name, Elena Voss. She greenlit your firing. Derek Langford signed off. His glass paused. Derek? That's smarmy. Fiancé. The word burned. Ex.
Soon.
But first, we bury them. Marcus stared, then nodded. What do you need? Everything. We met in coffee shops and back alleys over the next weeks, piecing together a dossier that would make Woodward and Bernstein blush. Emails, wire transfers, even a recorded call where Derek sweet-talked Russo for favors. Marcus had kept copies. Digital breadcrumbs from his days as the office pariah. Dad's pressure eased temporarily. I wired $20K from a slush fund. Anonymous. Buying time. But the wedding loomed. A guillotine in June tulle and vows. Invites went out. Elena as maid of honor, her insistence. To keep the peace. Mom flying in from LA. Her first glimpse of me since I was 10. The rehearsal dinner was a powder keg. At Le Bernardin. Waves of seafood and tension. Derek's family, wasps from Connecticut, eyeing my new money crew like we'd crashed their yacht. Elena flitted about, toasting with champagne flutes that clinked like handcuffs. To Charlotte and Derek, she purred, arm linked with his. May your merger be as fruitful as ours. The table murmured approval. I raised my glass, eyes locked on hers. To fruitful mergers. And the fruits that rot if not pruned. Silence rippled. Derek coughed into his napkin.
Mom.
Elegant in pearls but distant, shot me a curious look. She'd aged gracefully. Lines around eyes that mirrored mine. But the warmth was guarded. Later, in the powder room,
She cornered me.
What's eating you, baby girl? This isn't the joyful bride I flew across the country for. I adjusted my necklace. The Hale family heirloom, emerald, like our secrets. Life's not a fairy tale.
Mom. You taught me that.
Her face softened. Hand on my arm. I left to protect you from his mess. The debts. The games.
Victor.
He loved us. But he gambled it all away. I know. The confession hung.
Raw.
In the first life. We'd reconciled too late. Her apologies lost in my grief. But I'm fixing it. For all of us. She hugged me then, fierce and fleeting. Be careful, Charlotte. Love blinds, but hate consumes.
Hate.
Was that what this was? Or survival? The ceremony was flawless. St. Patrick's Cathedral. Stained glass filtering light like divine approval. I walked the aisle on Dad's arm. His grip steady despite the tremor in his step. Vows exchanged, rings binding. But as Derek kissed me, I tasted ash. The crowd cheered, flashbulbs popping, but my mind was on the dossier burning a hole in my briefcase. Honeymoon in Tuscany was a farce, villas and vino. Derek's hands wandering while I plotted. I slipped away to calls with Marcus, coordinating the drop, tips to the SE. Anonymous, timed for maximum chaos. Back in New York by July, the heat wave mirroring the inferno I ignited. Leaks hit the wires, Sterling Tech merger under scrutiny, embezzlement allegations. Stock dipped. Elena's face on every news channel. Her denial shrill. Derek came home late, reeking of scotch and panic. What the hell? Charlie? This you're doing? I lounged on the couch. Our new place. A Tribeca loft paid for by merger bonuses. Glass of Pinot in hand. Mine? I'm the victim here. He loomed. Face red. Don't play dumb. Marcus Reed? That loser? Loser with receipts. I stood. Toe to toe. You think you can frame me again? Push me out a window. His eyes widened. Color draining. What are you? I remember. Derek. The words spilled. A dam breaking. Everything. The accounts. The debt shakedown. Elena's cut. You killed me. He laughed. Manic. You're crazy. Stress from the wedding. I slapped him. The crack echoing. Crazy? Try Reborn. He grabbed my wrist. Twisting. If you breathe a word. The door buzzed. Cops.
No.
Lena. Eyes wide. Charlie? SEC's downstairs. With warrants. Derek released me, bolting for the bedroom. I didn't stop him. Let him run. Elena went down fighting, her lawyers spinning webs of deniability. But the evidence mounted, tapes, transfers, even a panicked email from Derek to Russo, Handle Hale's old man. Quiet. Dad was safe, relocated to a safe house on my dime. Mom with him. Their reunion a silver lining in the storm. He called daily. Voice stronger. Proud of you.
Kid.
For seeing what I couldn't. The climax unfolded in a federal courtroom. August swelter turning the gallery into a sweatbox. Elena in Chanel. Derek in cuffs from a Jersey hideout. Me on the stand, calm, composed, reciting sins like scripture. Your Honor, this wasn't business. It was betrayal. My voice carried.
Steady.
They stole my company, my family, my life. Cross-examination was brutal. Defense painting me as vengeful bride scorned. MS. Hale. Isn't it true you fabricated evidence out of jealousy? I met the lawyer's eyes. Derek Shark. From the first timeline. Jealousy?
No.
Clarity. The twist came mid-trial. Mom's testimony. Not just about Dad's debts, but a bombshell. Derek's father, the Connecticut blue blood, had been her lover post-divorce. A scandal hushed with payoffs. One Derek had exploited to bind me closer, knowing the Hale name was his leverage. Gasps rippled. Elena cracked. Plea deal crumbling as she implicated Derek in the laundering. He pushed me, she sobbed on the stand. Said you'd never suspect the wife. Derek glared from the dock, but his charm was ash. Convictions rolled in: fraud, extortion, conspiracy. Manslaughter charges loomed for my accident, ballistics matching his prints on the window latch. As the gavel fell, I stepped out into autumn air crisp with possibility. Innovate Edge spun off independent. Stock soaring. Lena took VP. Marcus a corner office. Dad and Mom, rekindling in quiet Florida. Debts dissolved by seized assets. But victory tasted bittersweet. In the mirror of my new penthouse, not Sterling's, but mine, I saw the cost. Trust shattered. Edges hardened. Was this justice or just another cage? Derek's last letter from Attica. You win, Charlie. But did it make you whole?
No.
But it made me free. Freedom's a funny thing, tastes like champagne at first. All bubbles and bravado, but leaves you hollow when the party's over. By October, the headlines had faded. Merger Maven topples Titans. I was on every podcast from Joe Rogan to some finance bros Substack, spinning the tale as empowerment porn. From betrayed bride to boardroom boss.
Kitschy, right?
But late nights in the loft. City hum a lullaby. I'd trace the scars that weren't there. The phantom ache from the fall. The echo of wind rushing past my ears. Lena noticed first. You're ghosting, Charlie. Even at the top. You're miles away. We were at a rooftop bar in Soho. Wind whipping skirts. The skyline a jagged crown. She'd dragged me out. Post-trial victory lap turned therapy session. Talk. I swirled my martini. Olives bobbing like buoys in a storm. Ever wonder if winning's just losing slower? She arched a brow.
Deep. But nah.
You dismantled an empire. That's not loss. Empire. Sterling was a husk now. Elena's assets frozen. Her socialite circle scattering like roaches. Derek, buried in Supermax. Appeals denied. I'd visited once. Through plexiglass. His face gaunt. Charm eroded to spite. You set me up, he'd snarled.
How?
Some guardian angel? Worse. I'd leaned in. Voice ice.
Me.
The you couldn't break. He'd laughed. Broken. We were good together. Charlie.
Admit it.
Together?
You used me.
Like my dad. Like Elena. Like everyone. Not everyone.
His eyes.
Once warm. Now desperate. I loved you. In my way.
Love.
The word curdled. Your way killed me. The guard cut it short, but his words lingered. A splinter under skin. Dad's recovery was slower. Florida's sun couldn't bleach the shame. Therapy sessions via Zoom revealed cracks, PTSD from the beatings, guilt over Mom's exile. I gambled us away.
Kid.
You fixed what I broke. Not fixed, I corrected. During one call, Mom puttering in the background with herbal tea. Rebuilt. She joined us then. Screen split. He's right.
Though.
We all lost pieces. Her smile was tentative. Bridges mending with calls and care packages. But trust? That was rebar in concrete solid. But cold. Business boomed. Innovate Edge pivoted to ethical AI. Partnerships flooding in from Silicon Valley refugees fleeing scandal. I keynote at Davos, yes. The real deal, jabbing at corporate greed in a room of the guilty. Betrayal isn't a bug, it's the feature. Time to debug. Applause thundered. But backstage. Nausea hit. Imposter syndrome? Or the ghost of the woman who jumped? Whispering doubts. The controversy brewed in December. My tell-all interview with Vanity Fair. I'd agreed for the exposure. But the journalist, sharp as a shiv, dug deep. MS.
Hale.
Sources say you withheld evidence initially. Played vigilante before going legal. Ethical gray area. I paused. Camera hot on my face. Ethics? In a world where husbands murder for millions? Gray's the new black. It exploded. Twitter, X. Whatever, lit up. Hail hero versus vigilante vixen. Feminists hailed me. Conservatives decried lawless liberals. Late-night monologues roasted the jilted CEO's revenge porn. Even Dad called. Worried. Keep your head down. Charlie. Fame's a fickle bitch. But I leaned in. Controversy was currency. I launched a podcast, Reborn, Stories of Second Chances. Guests, whistleblowers, survivors, even a mob defector who'd flipped on Russo. Ratings soared. But so did the threats. Burner phones buzzing with you next. Shadows in my periphery on late walks. Lena pushed security, a detail. Discreet. Paranoia or prudence? Both. I scan the street from my window. Paranoia winning. The fall replayed in dreams. Derek's grip. Elena's laugh echoing from below. Waking sweat-soaked.
I di pace.
Plotting what-ifs. What if I'd let the merger slide? Stayed blind? New Year's Eve brought the spark. A gala at the Met. Black tie excess amid Egyptian artifacts. I arrived solo. Dates were liabilities now, gowns sapphire silk that caught light like accusations. Mingling with donors. I spotted him. Theo Grant. Elena's ex-husband. The forgotten footnote in her bio. He was at the bar. Silver fox handsome. Nursing scotch. In the first life. He'd been a footnote in the scandal. Divorcing her quietly post-trial.
Now, opportunity.
Charlotte Hale, he said, voice smooth as aged bourbon. The woman who felled my ex. Buy you a drink? We talked till midnight, his side of Elena, the affairs, the manipulations, how she'd used his venture capital firm to launder early funds. She was ice, he said, eyes distant. You? Fire. Fire. Dangerous. Consuming. We kissed at the stroke of 12. Confetti raining. But I pulled back. Too soon. He smiled. Card in hand. When you're ready. January thawed the chill. But not the tension.
SEC Prodipend.
Uncovering tendrils to DC. Lobbyists on Elena's payroll. I testified again. This time in DC. The Capitol's marble halls echoing my heels like gunshots. Senators grilled me. MS. Hale. Your methods off-the-books investigations. Anonymous leaks. Border on obstruction. Border. I shot back. Unflinching. They crossed into criminality. I crossed into survival. Headline screamed. Hale's hubris. Hero or hypocrite? Protests outside my office. Feminists with signs smashed the patriarchy. Suits with placards, anarchy in algorithms. Cops dispersed them. But one face lingered, a woman in the crowd. Mid-40s. Eyes hollow. Later. Email. You saved me from my Derek. Thank you. Messages like hers piled up, thousands. A deluge of "me too" in code. It fueled me, but exhaustion crept. Lena forced a retreat. Weekend in the Hamptons. No laptops. The house was a rental, beachfront, waves crashing like unresolved chords. I walked the shore alone. Salt air scouring lungs. Theo's card crumpling in my pocket. Call him? Risk another fracture? Night fell stormy. Thunder rumbling like distant artillery. Power flickered. And in the candlelight, memories assaulted. The wedding night. Derek's whispers turning to demands. The boardroom where Elena had mentored me into silence. A knock at the door, Elena? No. A package. Unmarked. Inside, a USB drive. Labeled "The Real Merger." Heart hammering. I plugged it in. Files bloomed. Not just Derek and Elena, but Dad. Emails from '08. Him tipping Russo to Sterling's inside trades for debt relief. One favor. Vic. Keep it quiet. Betrayal's echo. He'd played me too, protecting his skin at mine's expense. I confronted him via video, screen glitching in the storm. Dad? Explain. His face crumpled. Florida tan sallow. Charlie? It was once. To buy time. Time for what? To let them destroy us. Tears hot. Voice cracking. You gambled me away. Just like Mom. Mom interjected. Off screen. We both did. But we're here now. Here. Fractured. But fighting. Fix it, I demanded. Testify. Full disclosure. He nodded. Broken. For you. The drive revealed more. A hidden beneficiary in my will, the first one. Pre-death. Set to inherit Innovate shares if I perished. Derek's forgery. Her complicity. Fed to the prosecutors. Its sealed fates. Elena flipped fully, naming names up the chain. Derek's trial ballooned, conspiracy to murder added, evidence irrefutable. But the cost mounted. Paparazzi swarmed, a drone buzzing my Hamptons deck. I smashed it with a broom. Shards raining. Laughing manic till sobs took over. Theo arrived unannounced, bearing wine and quiet. Saw the news. Thought you could use company. We talked till dawn, his regrets. My rebirth. You're not broken, he said. Hand over mine. Remade. Remade. The words stuck. Back in the city, momentum built. My podcast hit millions, spawning a foundation. Hale House. Shelters for betrayal survivors. Donors poured in, but so did lawsuits, defamation from Derek's clan, harassment claims from Elena's allies. Court dates blurred into a gauntlet. One afternoon, post-hearing, a tail followed me home, black SUV. Tinted. Paranoia peaked. I called security, barricaded in. Lena burst in, breathless. It's Russo. Out on bail, gunning for loose ends. Dad. The thought iced my veins. I flew south, storming their bungalow. He was packing go bags. Scared eyes. They came last night, Mom whispered. Warnings. I loaded them into my rental. Tires screeching toward the airport. Private jet to Canada. Assets liquidated for new IDs. Start over, I said, hugging fierce. No debts this time. Dad's voice cracked. Love you.
Kid.
Sorry for. Stop. Forgiveness wasn't absolution. It was release. Go. Watching the plane lift off, I felt unmoored, family scattered. Empire mine, but lonely. Spring bloomed vengeful. Derek's sentencing, life. No parole. Elena, 25. Her empire dust. Russo rounded up in a dawn raid. My testimony the nail. But the twist twisted inward. A letter from Attica, not Derek's, Elena's, smuggled via guard. Charlotte, you think you won? Check the merger fine print. Clause 17. Survivors' rights revert to sterling heirs. Your company's mine in probate. Bullshit. I'd scoured those docs. But doubt not, I called lawyers. Midnight oil burning. Dawn brought truth. A forgery. Elena's last gasp. Planted post-fall. Invalidated. But the scare lingered. Theo waited at my door, breakfast in hand. Heard about the scare. Move in with me? I hesitated, then nodded. Temporary. Temporary turned tentative dinners, debates on ethics, nights where touch mended fractures. You're not like them, he murmured once, fingers tracing my spine. You're real.
Real.
Scarred. But standing. Summer solstice. I stood on Sterling's old roof, now Innovate Edge HQ, wind gentle. City sprawling benevolent. Lena joined. Champagne popping. To second acts. We toasted. But my eyes pricked. The fall site. Marked by nothing but memory. I'd survived it twice, once in body, once in soul. Controversy faded to legend. I wrote the book. Raw and unfiltered. Reborn and Betrayal. How they tried to bury me and failed. Bestseller. Movie rights pending. But peace? Elusive. Dreams still whispered of glass and gravity. Derek's face a specter. Until one night.
Theo slet be sai me.
I woke to clarity. Not vengeance's fire, but purpose's glow. I'd paid the debts, shattered the chains. Free. Finally. Fall leaves carpeted Central Park in crimson and gold, a mockery of blood long spilled but never seen. 2 years post-trial. And New York had moved on. New scandals eclipsing the old. Derek's name a footnote in true crime pods. Elena's a punchline in tabloids hawking her prison memoirs. Ice Queen thawed, my side.
Me?
Charlotte Hale was the survivor saint. Keynote circuits and TED Talks preaching resilience like gospel. But saints bleed. And mine was internal. A slow seep from wounds that rebirth couldn't cauterize. Theo and I had made it official. Rings exchanged in a quiet vineyard ceremony.
No fun for.
Just us and a justice of the peace with Winburn. His steadiness grounded me. A counter to my tempests. We built a life in a brownstone off Gramercy. Bookshelves groaning under his histories and my code manuals. Nights were easy, pasta from the corner Italian. Debates over wine about antitrust laws versus antitrust lovers. But mornings? I'd wake to phantom pushes. Bolting upright. Sheets tangled like restraints. You're safe, he'd murmur, pulling me back. Safe. The word was mantra now. Etched in therapy sessions where I unpacked the fall, not just Derek's hands, but the complicity of silence. My own blindness. Dad and Mom? Thriving in Vancouver under aliases, Victor and Elise Grant. Irony not lost. Weekly calls brimmed with normalcy. Dad's woodworking hobby. Mom's yoga studio. We're square.
Kid, he'd say.
Voice robust. Thanks to you.
Square.
Close enough. Innovate Edge flourished. Valuation hitting unicorn status with a pivot to blockchain ethics, transparent chains for opaque worlds. Lena helmed the New York office. Her promotion my first post-rebirth decree, Marcus consulted. His testimony earning him a TED slot of his own. The foundation expanded. Hail houses nationwide. Bunkers for the betrayed. Funded by C's sterling loot. But victory's echo was dissonance. The controversy reignited with my book launch. Reborn and Betrayal debuted at #1. But backlash bit. Conservative outlets branded it feminist fantasy, accusing me of glorifying vigilantism. Hale's not hero, she's hacker. One op-ed sneered.
Dragina non mous lea exclaiming nide bribat Marcus. Lies.
But they stung. Dredging old doubts. Had I crossed lines? The off-books digs. The planted doubts, gray. As I'd admitted. Protests hit again. Smaller but shrill. Outside a Boston signing. A man in a MAGA cap shoved a sign in my face. Justice or witch hunt? Security peeled him off. But his spit landed on my sleeve. Hot and accusatory. Theo waited in the green room. Arms open. Ignore the noise. Noise is signal. I paced. Adrenaline sour. What if they're right? What if I became them? He cupped my face. Eyes steady. You expose them. That's light. Not shadow.
Light.
I clung to it. But shadows lengthened. A new threat emerged. Derek's sister. Lydia Langford. A trust fund lawyer with a vendetta. She sued for defamation, claiming the book libeled her innocent brother. Discovery unearthed emails, Derek's. To her, Charlie's unraveling. If she goes, it's all ours. The trial was a circus. Manhattan courtroom packed with gawkers and gadflies. Lydia on the stand, porcelain doll in pearls, tearfully recounting family holidays ruined by my crusade. He was framed, she wailed. By her ambition. My turn. Cross-exam unflinching. Framed? Like the window he pushed me through? Or the debts he weaponized against my father?
Gasps.
Her lawyer objected. Judge sustained. But the seed planted. Jurors' eyes shifted. Whispers buzzing.
Tout that Stevie?
Voice even. I knew Elena. Charlotte saved lives. Including mine from her web. Dismissed on summary judgment.
But the toll mounted.
Sleepless nights. Prescriptions for anxiety that blurred edges. One evening. Post-verdict drinks with Lena. I confessed. I see his face everywhere. Derek's. She swirled her cosmopolitan. Frank. Because you haven't let go. Visit him. End it. Visit. The idea repulsed. But nod. A week later, I drove to Attica. Upstate autumn, a blaze of irony. Plexiglass again. But this time, no rage, just weariness in his eyes.
Cheeks hollowed by time.
Charlie.
No green.
Just resignation. Come to gloat.
No. He said.
Hands folded. Closure. He leaned forward. Voice raspy. You got it. Ruined us all.
Us.
I echoed. You ruined me. Pushed me out that window like trash. Static crackled, he flinched.
I panicked.
The SEC closing in. Elena screaming you'd flip. It was heat of the moment. as if murder fit in one. And the love, your way? He looked away, chains clinking.
Twisted.
You were perfect, smart, driven.
I wanted that.
Controlled it. Pity stirred. Unwelcome. And now, nothing. His laugh was dust. You won. Be happy. Happy. The word echoed as I left. Prison gates clanging like punctuation. On the drive back, rain sheeting windshield. Tears came, not grief, but release. He'd confessed. On record, Lydia's suit crumbled. Winter brought balm. Holiday cards from Vancouver, Dad's carved ornaments, Mom's knit scarf. Theo proposed expansion, a European branch for the foundation. With me, with you. Paris in spring. Scouting sites. His hand in mine over croissants. Life normalized, edges softening. But the ultimate twist waited in April. Tax season's cruel gift. An audit unearthed a ghost account, Sterling slush fund, dormant, with my name attached. Forgery? No. My signature. Pre-merger.
On, consulting, adan dumide furguten.
Elena's trap. Baited years prior. Designed to detonate post my death. IRS agents swarmed. Freezing assets. Headline screamed. Hale's hidden hoard. Tax evasion twist. Panic clawed ruin. Again? Lawyers swarmed. But proof mounted. Timestamps predating my rebirth. Elena's digital fingerprints via Marcus's forensics. Cleared in weeks. But the scare scarred. Board whispers. Instability. Investors jittery. I addressed it head-on. Press conference in the park. This is the last echo of betrayal. We rise. Rise we did, stock rebounded. Sympathy donations flooding. But introspection deepened. Therapy unearthed the core. Not Derek's push. But my push toward perfection. Blinding me to rot.
Summer solstice again.
Rooftop party for the Foundation's anniversary. Lena toasted. To Charlotte Reborn. Unbowed. Laughter. Clinks. Theo pulled me aside. Ring glinting. Marry me. For real this time. Heartful. I nodded. Yes. The wedding was ours. Backyard in Gramercy. Wildflowers and witnesses. Lena. Marcus. Even a video link to Vancouver. Vows simple. I choose you. Shadows and all. Honeymoon in Tuscany. Echo. But earned.
Vilas Visperet romance.
Not ruse. Nights tangled. Days wandering olive groves. His questions peeling layers. What now, he'd ask. Sunset gilding his face. Now, live. No plots. Just presence. Back home. The book tour wrapped with a bang. Oprah. Tears and triumphs. Reborn isn't revenge, I said on air. It's reclamation. Audience applauded. I believed it. Fall deepened. Leaves turning. One crisp morning. I climbed Sterling's roof. Our roof now, wind gentle. City a canvas of possibility. No phantoms. Just peace. Echoes faded. Victory was an absence of pain, but presence despite it. I was whole. Finally. And in that wholeness, I leaped not fallen, but flying.